Okay, we want to welcome everyone to our Raymond Council meeting tonight. We're thrilled to have some people in attendance. It's good to have you here. Same as always, we appreciate you coming, and we want you to respect us, and we'll respect you in your comments. And at this meeting, we try to have a little more order than some of our meetings. Our committee meetings is more discussion. So anyway, we appreciate you coming, and we'll. When it's your turn to opportunity to talk, we'll give you the opportunity. So we'll call this meeting to order. Council, you have a agenda in front of you. We have one addition, and that's Joe Canio is also here to talk as a delegation. He'll be after the first delegation, Warren Depew. So we need a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll move to adopt the agenda.
Councillor Harker moves to adopt the agenda. So all in favor?
Excuse me.
Any opposed? I guess there's none. Okay. Councillor Fromm?
Hi.
So we just adopted the agenda. We have one extra, and that's Joe Canyon that's here.
Okay.
So we'll move to our delegations. Warren Depue's here to talk about raw water. So Warren, we'll turn the time to you.
Okay. Curtis, do you know if they were gonna have that map put up on the screen? Okay, well, I'm here to make a presentation. Hopefully we'll get this up on the screen in a second, but I'll give you a little bit of background. In the late spring of 2016, 4 years ago, I was walking down the green strip on the walking path, and I noticed an individual working out in there between the green strip and his yard. He'd run a trench from the green strip over to his yard, and I stopped and asked him what he was doing. And he said he'd had permission from the town to tap into the water line that runs parallel along the green strip, to take it to his yard and also to his son-in-law's yard, and use raw water to water their gardens and yard. And I thought, hey, this sounds like a great idea, to have raw water. And so Randy Broadhead and I and some others in our neighborhood got talking, and there's some of us there have got bigger lots than normal. And we've spent a lot of time and effort and money over the years cleaning off barns and krells and machinery and building supplies, and all the stuff was in the back, and I've cleaned them up and got them mowed and looked pretty good. And there were 6 of us that felt that we'd like to have some raw water back there to help water and improve them. Part of my yard used to be barns and krells, and so it's dirt. And we have a bit of a garden in maybe a quarter of it. The other 3 quarters are just straight dirt, because I haven't got enough water to water it to plant something there. But anyway, we approached the town about this unofficially. We just came and said, hey, what do we need to do? And we looked at some things we'd like to do to see about getting it done. And we presented just a little bit of a plan to, I don't know if it was you, Curtis, or if it was
Scott and myself.
Yeah, I just talked to them and said, hey, can this be done? What's going on? And the information that I got back, and Curtis can correct me if I'm wrong, but was that, first of all, they weren't really sure who was responsible for the pumps and the water line. And even to this point, they don't seem to know, at least nobody does, who even put the water line in. And although I've talked to someone who says that the town put it in, and he can tell you about when it was put in. And they didn't know if the pumps at the Corner Lake were going to be good enough condition to keep running, to supply it. The line ran west and then heads north and supplies water to the school grounds. And they didn't know if the line was large enough. There didn't seem to be an awful lot of information as to the line, because we had a lot of new people on council, we had a lot of new people working here, and so I understand that. The 6 of us got talking and looking, and we stepped it off roughly and measured it, and we came up with an idea that would probably cost us about $2,000 per lot, or $12,000. We felt we could easily put that water line in. Over several conversations, we were told that there were going to be no more hookups allowed, that the town was looking into the possibility of developing a plan to supply the whole town. Someone at the town must have talked to Wild Brothers Engineering about it, because at some point a little later, I got two proposals, I've got them here, of what they proposed doing. The concern was, well, we don't know whether the existing line is big enough and good enough. So the proposals that were presented to us showed the new water line that comes in on the east side of Raymond that runs from Ridge Reservoir, goes north past Jim Larson's. They said they would tie into that line, run west through the green strip. Have you got that? Can I have that up on the screen if I could show you? I don't know if I can do this.
Just right in front of you
They were gonna bring this new water line along here. We wanted to tie in right here, just tie into this line. They said, well, we don't know if this line's good enough, so we'll bring a new line down here and run up here and supply it. Our proposed cost was $12,000. Wild Brothers' proposal was $49,000. Then they said, well, the other thing we could do is instead of tying on here, we could tie up here and run it down here and then bring it down to supply us. Going this route, it would supply the six of us for $49,000. They said they came this way, it would supply probably 15 or 16, $80,000. Well, both of those were totally non-economical. There's no way you can pay $5,000 to get town untreated water. It would just never ever pay for itself. People with those small lots just said no, they weren't going to do it. And then we were told that the town is looking into the possibility of doing this for the whole town. My question tonight is, where are we at with the plan to supply the whole town with untreated water? It's been 4 years now since I was told this was part of the plan. Are we close to doing that?
So you want an answer from
Yeah,
us?
I'd like an answer.
So we had a study done by Wild Brothers. Curtis, what was the exact price they came up with to supply the whole town?
I don't have the exact price off the top of my head, but it was in the matter of millions of dollars to get the trunk legs out throughout the community, and at that time council felt that it was not the best course of action for the community, and so they decided to put that on hold. And so just to clarify a couple of things that Warren mentioned, the line itself in the green strip is a town-owned line, and it does supply the green strip and the school. The pump house is a combination of ownership between the town. The pumps themselves were owned by the school division, and they were used to help irrigate the school until we were able to recently reconnect and extend the main line along where the new Ridgeview Lodge is. And I think at that point, those pumps aren't as necessary because we're able to pull it directly from the lake there. So partially that's correct. One of the things just for consideration is the green strip itself, the line that's there, that line, and the original intent of raw water was to provide the larger users in town so that our water treatment plant would be able to manage capacity a bit better during high demand times. It was never intended for residential individual connections, and a couple of reasons for that was at some point the town will want to expand and irrigate and enhance the condition of the green strip. If we piece that off, there isn't enough capacity to expand everybody along the green strip and still provide the school and the town with the ability to maintain our infrastructure that we have there. The second challenge we have is, depending upon what's proposed, I know there's two prices that were mentioned by Warren, and they're correct, they are expensive. After the main line's installed, the question is always who maintains the line. And depending on how the policy looked, the municipality is usually the one that has to maintain it, and so we're not usually using the same type of material or equipment that some of the quotes come in from the residents, and we typically want them at a higher standard because we're the ones that are gonna have to maintain it. And so I think that's why those different proposals were presented forth. The one obstacle we do face is, regardless of the cost, the intent of raw water, if we push it out to every individual residence, yes, people have cheaper water to irrigate their lawns 5 to 6 months out of the year, but it will increase the cost for water for everybody for drinking, showering, using their washroom, and that nature on a per cubic meter basis, because the overall demand will be decreased. And so at the time, council felt to allow people who want to have their lawns greener versus increasing the cost to everybody for the day-to-day life of water in that sense wasn't necessarily in the best interest, and so I think that was one of the reasons why council at the time decided to let it go. And that's just for context and background. Obviously, we're open to whatever council decides.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, I understand there's been some changes since then. They're no longer using the pumps. We've now found that it's fed by a 20-inch line coming into Raymond, and then reduced down to a 10-inch line, and then is gravity fed and ties onto the green strip line just there by the new Ridgeview Lodge. In talking with Jesse Salmon, he felt that there was absolutely no problem with any supply of water, that there's lots and lots of water. At the present time, there are 6 people already using that system. And there are 4 that draw water west of where the feeder line comes in at Ridgeview Lodge, and 2 on the east side. And I guess my question is, and I understand what you were thinking, but how come 6 get it and no one else does? That's just one question I have. There's lots of volume there. There's a private line has been installed out near the football field that supplies Lloyd Fairbanks's block, and was proposed, from what I understand, and I can be corrected, to also supply across the road west from Lloyd Fairbanks's block, but was voted down by some of the people along the block. Mayor might know whether that's correct or not.
That's correct.
Yeah, and so, you know, supplying is something that the town is already doing for people. It's just a question, well, can we, at some point in time, 5, 10, 15, who knows when, that we may need more water in other places. So do we stop any kind of usage now because we might need it in the future? I mean, they commented, well, it's gonna raise the cost of raw water. If we use raw water, it's gonna raise the cost for everybody in town. Well, you've already done that. I mean, by supplying the Lloyd Fairbanks Plain Steep block and by the people that are using it now, you've already made that choice. So to say, at least in my view, to say, well, it's gonna cost more money for everybody in town, you've already made that decision. We've been in contact with a private contractor about installing a line just from the green strip to my property, which happened to be the farthest away. And it would be, at present, we have talked to others on our block. We now have 10 people who are interested in our block in attaching for raw water. We feel that the private contractor spoke to us and he said, I can put that line in for under $5,000. Now that's about a 600-foot line, and there will probably be some other costs, but what we feel is the cost is going to be considerably less than what we even proposed, and would be at a point where it's very affordable to have it done. What we would like to do is approach the town and say, we would like to get permission from the town to continue to look into this with the possibility of having it done. We would get a hold of the contractor, we would get pricing, everything that we need to find out what it's gonna be. We have proposed paying the entire cost ourselves. We will maintain the line. However, I would like to see what agreements you have with all the others that are getting raw water supplied to them, because we would like to have the same type of agreement and are willing to probably do the same thing. So, I mean, who maintains the lines that Alan Rommel, Reed Parker, Dallas Sherwood, Brad James, and the Plain Steeds block? Does anyone know what the agreements are there? What's the agreement with the Plain Steed block? Who maintains all of that? We don't know. We'd like to find those things out so we can determine whether it's worth our while to go further with this. We think there's lots can be done. We think there's lots of water there. Things can change. I understand you may have a demand for more water down the road. Well, that's certainly a possibility, but let's not stop any production now in case something changes 10, 20 years from now, who knows? We're open to any questions. Randy, do you have anything you wanted to say at all?
No, we just wanted to propose that we would pay for it, put it in. We would cover all the costs ourselves.
And there would be a shut-off valve right where it joins the town line, so if for some reason we're abusing the system, it can be turned off.
So, council, I hope you're all thinking about some questions to ask these guys. Next week is when we have our discussion committee, and we'll discuss it more, but try to get all your questions out that you're thinking of, so we can, while they're here, to answer some questions. For example, this the drawing that you had there, I was very curious on this. The 6-inch line that's there. Who drew this up for you, Warren? Was that
Who did which?
this drawing that?
I got the where is it? Oh, that diagram came from the town.
So is there a
I drew the red lines in.
is a 6-inch line that's not already in there then, in the green strip?
Talking to Jesse Salmon, it's a 6-inch line that runs along the green strip.
It's already in there right now.
It's already in the ground now. If you look now, this is the green strip line. It was fed from over here by pumps from Corner Lake. There were pumps that pump the water here. It goes down and then goes north to the schools. Now there is a 20-inch line that comes in here. Instead of pumping the water out of Corner Lake, it comes out of the 20-inch line. Only what they do is they tied a 10-inch line in and ran it down along the north edge of Dale and Atwoods on the road, and then ran a 10-inch line here to this 6-inch line, cut into it and joined it here. So it's now all gravity fed. There's no pumps to worry about. So the water now flows both ways. The water flows back this way and supplies 2 properties. And then flows this way and supplies 4 properties down here.
And then goes to the schools.
And then goes to the school. According again to what Jesse Salmon told me the other day, there's all kinds of water to supply the school and for tying into this. So, you know, at this point, I don't know what other projects you may have down the road that would eliminate that. But this is now, from what I understand, a 10-inch line that comes here and meets this 6-inch line. No pumps, nothing to worry about there. And the water is just sitting in this line, just sits there, except for these 2 homes that draw out of a 2-inch line.
So Curtis, when he says it's just sitting there, it's not going back and going out somewhere else, or it's not being fed from that other point coming in, or do you understand that?
I think the line does connect further east, but I'd have to look at the specifics of the drawing. It's gonna be looped going.
What I was told, it went back to Corner Lake and could flow back into Corner Lake. Apparently, this is again what I was told by someone who seemed to know. Reed Parker was telling me that whole 6-inch green strip line is sloped, and his gravity feeds back to Corner Lake when they want to drain it in the fall. And so I'm sure that's why it's tied back into there.
So these are questions that you're gonna have to try to get some answers for us for next week, if you can do it by next week, Curtis, or,
Sure.
or a future committee meeting.
Yep.
The agreements, there's agreements that are made up with all these people you're asking about.
I would presume.
The raw water.
I don't know, that's what I'm wondering.
No, I'm sure there is, and I'm sure you could have them for us too, right, Curtis? So we could see what, I know on the street across from me, there's agreements there. There's so much, they had to pay to get it installed, and then there was so much, they're paying it every year for 10 years on a local improvement loan.
Yeah, that's what I say, I have no idea how that.
The other agreements with the other guys on the green strip, I have no idea about.
So I don't think there were agreements set aside in the actual use. It was more so just the installation. Who's gonna pay for what? I'd have to look and see who's responsible for what maintenance, and I think that's where the challenge comes, in that it's all well and good that these property owners are saying they'll install this line, but it's gonna get, now, if it goes according to what they've drawn here, up to 200 South, you're gonna have people across from 200 South that may wanna tie into that. And then are they gonna be able to tie into it, and who's gonna be maintaining that infrastructure as it stands out? And so I think there is a lot of gray in this area, and I think that's why council has decided up to this point that it wasn't prudent to go forward. But if council decides to change their mind, we definitely need to nail down some of the details so that there isn't a lot of gray area that currently exists. The reason there were some that were installed previously were, for all lack of intents and purposes, it was different councils, different intentions, and people came and asked, or some just hooked up and asked for permission forgiveness later, to put it bluntly.
Yeah.
And that's the reality where we're at. And so those 6 are kind of it's a moot point. Going forward, if council decides to connect others going forward, that's totally in their purview, and we can definitely
So,
accommodate that.
so does that mean we can draw a line in and tie it in and then come back for permission later?
It won't be looked at as forgiveness as,
I heard that.
as nice.
This council might not be so forgiving.
Yeah.
You won't be the first. Does everybody on the well Kennedy feel the same way?
There's 6 of us that are interested, that have bigger lots that are definitely interested. You know, a lot of it boils down to cost. There's a couple of, there's 4 homes there that have small lots, and they are interested depending on the cost. Now, we had no idea what the cost was gonna be. We just tentatively felt from just grabbing numbers from prices of piping and trenching and talking to a few people, that was gonna cost us $2,000 a piece for 6 lots, $12,000. The smaller ones may not. At the time, the 3 smaller ones did not want to do it 4 years ago. But we have, of those 4 small lots, we have 4 different homeowners now. And 3 of them are interested if the cost is reasonable for them to justify doing it.
At what point does that become a town issue, or do you guys figure all that out? You
That's,
collect it
this
and
is
pay
what
it,
we're
blah, blah, blah?
proposing, this is our issue. You know, and we talk about maintenance, again, we're prepared to put in and maintain the line, and if, I understand the town would be worried about it, they would have a shut-off valve where we tie into the town's line, but they could just simply turn it off. If, you know,
So-
if they felt that we weren't doing it right, just turn it off.
Or if the
So-
need ever arose for some reason?
So just so council understands this, Warren has approached me more than a couple of times about this, and that's why he's finally here at our council meeting. What they're proposing is they'd be their own little co-op. So they would put it in, they would maintain it, and if something went wrong and it had to be shut off, they'd either have to try to fix it, or it'd be shut off by the town crew with the shut-off valve, and then they would have to try to fix that on their own. So it wouldn't be any of our responsibility except for the water. That's his proposal, am I correct?
Yeah, I get, that's been the concern is when we were told 4 years ago, we were gonna look into town was gonna look into supplying the whole town. My comment was, well, I won't live long enough to see it done. And not that I expect to have a short life, but I know how long it takes to develop a program for the whole town, and I understand that and I appreciate it. But now we're 4 years down the road, we're absolutely no closer to getting raw water than were 4 years ago. I mean, we're right back to the same point 4 years later. And my concern is, if this is something the town's gonna try and do, and the town's gonna try and maintain and everything, heaven only knows how long it's gonna be, even on a small scale. You know, I looked at the cost to have the engineers put the line in. They wanted, the engineer, and I've got the quotes right here, works out to just under $8 or $9 a foot to supply the material and to put the line in. Our contractor will do it for $4 a foot. I mean, the cost of the line is roughly $2 a foot. And it's actually a little bit less than that. It's probably around $1.60 to $1.70 a foot. Every time you involve an engineer, there's a 15% cost right up front that goes to pay them. It does. I mean, if you guys try and do it, it'll cost a lot more than if we do it. And yet, we end up paying it one way or the other. I mean, that's who pays it. And so that's why we propose doing it ourselves. I mean, like, I think the town put it in for the Fairbanks Steed block, I would presume.
They did.
Because it runs right past their property, right past their back fence.
They did.
Yeah, and I understand that. These other 6 that are using it, they all put it in themselves. And I don't know if you've had any problem with it. I know my daughter and her husband are one of them. And when we found out that Alan Rommel was doing this, I thought, well, gee, this might work well for my daughter, because she lives right on the green strip. She has a big yard, lots of trees, lots of landscaping. and went right down there, and there was the little green box, 30 feet out in the green strip. I took the screws out and opened it up, and lo and behold, there's a tap. So I hooked a hose onto the tap, run it over to the property, her property, turned it on, she's got water, so we hooked it into her system, and it started to run. So we came down and I talked to Curtis and said, hey, what do we need to do to get my dog? I mean, you've got two guys just down the street doing it right now, supposedly permission. We've got more up the street that may or may not have had permission. And his response was, well, I wouldn't suggest you do it. He said, the town is looking into the possibility of it. We said, okay, fine. So we unhooked. And then at some point later, and Curtis may know, but I think you called her.
Yeah, council said that before, they said that anybody that had expressed interest to that point to Scott was able to tie in before that moratorium went through. And so that's why the individual in question was allowed to tie in.
I'll ask the next loaded question then.
Sure.
You just said that anyone who had expressed interest, our group didn't get a phone call.
It was different perspective.
Yeah.
Whether you, it's a complicated issue. And
Yeah.
I think the reality of what council needs to decide is, I think you decided previously, and you can definitely correct this, pushing it out as an entire town plan isn't feasible. Allowing it to grow on a local improvement basis similar to paving streets is probably the preferable way, and it's done on an individual basis as it extends. The tricky part will be, how do we do that? With our rural water network, when somebody ties on, they pay a set cost for the right to the water, a meter and a meter pit, and all the costs for the installation are on them, but it's to our specified construction. And we have to inspect the connection before it's backfilled. We maintain the infrastructure. They pay for that as part of their cost. Having independent co-ops within town, in my mind, is a recipe for disaster, to put it bluntly, because it's gonna be who information has a hard time of always translating down the line, who is gonna know exactly what was decided at a certain time. With our utilities, the town has monopoly, to put it bluntly, on the water, sewer, and the garbage, and I think that this should be similar if council decides to do this, just to avoid gray. And I do think it should be based on our specifications, whatever we deem that to be. And if the cost is not, is cost prohibitive, then unfortunately, in my mind, that's how it should be. But obviously, that's to your discretion. I just don't wanna have to deal with issues or the next CAO down the road, however long that'll be, has to deal with things that may not have been well planned out, that seem good at the time, but cause problems later.
So, what was I gonna say? Oh, so council too, you all received one email from, some people on the green strip on the west end. And also there was another email that was sent from some on the east end. They're also requesting the same thing. They live on the green strip, they'd like to tie into it too, so.
And both of those will be on your committee agenda for next week,
Yeah.
along with this proposal.
Okay, something we can discuss, so that's why if you got questions, you better fire it out to these guys right now. Councilor
Mayor.
Peters, yes.
So, with the group that Warren's talking about, with the 10 or 11 more lots there, we got that email about 2 or 3 other property owners, that wanted as well. Do we have any idea what the capacity? I know Jesse Salmon, I guess, kind of spoke out and said that he thinks it'll cover it, but, do we know for sure that if the school was watering, and we were watering the green strip with these 10 additions and the other 2 or 3 that want them, will we have capacity to be able to give everyone the same amount of PSI at the same time, or is it going to be limited to where all of a sudden now people aren't getting the water that they're paying for as part of the agreement they have in place?
Good question. The capacity of the water, it's all gravity flow. I'm not even sure how it all works, how it comes in and how it all works. There's not a pump, it's just coming in and running down through the big main line.
I guess the other challenge too is that right beside my house is the alley that water line goes down that feeds the school. I'm probably about 4 feet away from being able to tie onto that line. Would that line be accessible now to people that live beside that? It can tie onto that line? And if so, again, does that take the amount of water that's available to everyone? Does that diminish the availability for people to have that pressure that need to run their sprinklers?
That's the trick, as for us, and when we discuss it, I mean, like, really, where do you draw the line? If we don't do it for you, but we do it for somebody else, then you get your nose out of joint. And if we do it for you, but not for somebody else, they get the nose out of joint. And somewhere we have to draw the line, just for costs reasons, and then for co-op reasons, et cetera. So it'll all be discussed, but I think it's
I was
worth
told
looking
by a
at.
previous councilman on the previous council, if we can't give it to everybody in town, nobody gets it. Well, you can apply that to just about any facility in town.
That, or if
Say
it's already
the
out
same
buying
thing,
it,
and
there's
then-
already some people that have got it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but that's the point of living in a town. Everybody shares the burden. Everybody pays taxes. Everybody is under the same mill rate, and we all share the burden of everybody else. And that there's something to that argument. We just have to know where to draw the line, who gets it and who doesn't. Because I guarantee that you guys will be either satisfied or dissatisfied, and then it will pop up somewhere else. And Joe, I don't know if you're gonna talk about the same issue, but the other email that came in, I think, had 6 families on it, and it does pop up.
Mhm.
And
Oh, I understand, I appreciate that, I understand that.
so knowing who to say yes to and who to say no to is a real trick for council.
So what are the differences?
Mayor.
Go ahead, Councillor Foss.
Sorry, I had a question, and I appreciate the work that's gone into this, and I think we did that survey, or I guess it was a census question, and the support it was sort of like there wasn't overwhelming support, there wasn't overwhelming rejection, it was kind of right down the middle. And so since then I've felt sort of a localized approach was probably the likely course forward. And so I appreciate the work that this neighborhood and other neighborhoods are doing towards this question. I did have a question for Warren in regards to, you said something about the neighborhood sort of maintaining it in an ongoing fashion. Let's say property turns over, so somebody sells a property, new property owners. How do you maintain or ensure that people continue to be bought into this co-op idea? Is it a requirement in the neighborhood, or is it an optional thing? And before you respond to that, just one other comment, and I asked the question because I think in my mind the ideal course forward is a standardized approach. So if we take an approach with you, I'd like to see us sort of normalize that with all other potential neighborhoods. So anyway, there's the question. How would you ensure that?
Well, I think what we do, and we haven't talked about this as a group, we haven't met officially as an entire group together, but I think what would happen is if a new neighbor come in and didn't want to participate, they would just be unhooked, turned off. And the balance would continue to share it. And eventually, if enough dropped off, it would come to a point where the line would be turned off. I don't see that as a big problem.
So it's not something that has to be passed down every time a property is sold.
Yeah, I just would feel that if I sold my property and you bought it and didn't want this access to this water, you just turn it off
So not to use it.
and you don't have to pay.
We've got some interest in everybody having access to our water because we want the town to be beautiful. We want the yard to be green and beautiful and inviting. So there's that to, when we discuss it too. It's just a tough question.
So going back to Councillor Capeter's comment, the line that goes by you, do you have any idea how big that line is? Is it a 2-inch line, or is it a
I've heard it's a 4-inch line.
4-inch line? See, the one that's on the green strip's a 6-inch line, which I think is a little different too. There's a lot of water there, and as it's going down,
Yeah,
it's being reduced. Go ahead.
When we talked about this before, we talked about at some point, if we wanted to create more parking picnic areas on that green strip, is to come off that line by on 400 East or whatever it is that feeds the hospital and Stonegate, come off there with a 10-inch line coming back to the green strip. And if we did that, then we could again develop more stuff along the green strip, more parks and recreational opportunities, and then you'd have abundance of water to feed everybody in the whole side. And we talked about running that loop even down towards the new development on the west side of the state center. But those things kind of have to put in place, and the fact comes back down to who pays for it all. And I'd love to have Warren have water. I'd love to have everybody who wants water, but I think what Councilor Fromm said is you got to figure out the best way to do this, that it's equitable in a way that's fair to all the taxpayers.
And just one other thing for consideration, and I agree, if we can get water out, great. I'm not opposed to that in principle. It's something that we can definitely do. I think the caution is going to be in the details. If this proposal goes through like they've designed, that's great. However, it's now a block further north, and I kind of mentioned this, if there's another application going north, and we're gonna have, say, the next block serviced, and then if the situation comes up that Warren mentioned where their block just decides, hey, there isn't support now to maintain this, we can just shut it off. Well, we can't now because that's then fed up an extra block. And if we're gonna be then shutting it off on individual properties, then they're just not gonna pay. It's really easy for someone to go and turn on a faucet in a backyard alley, and we're never gonna know, but there's still a monthly fee that is associated with the raw water. And it's very complicated, and it's gonna be very difficult to monitor and maintain that type of an approach, which is why I think if council does decide to do this, the town owns the infrastructure, we push it out, and regardless if your house is serviced with raw water or not, you pay the fee. But then we're responsible for the maintenance of that, because then the determination is who's gonna get the air compressor in to blow out the lines in time. This group may be very prompt and on top of it, and they may not. And if it doesn't, and it isn't, and there's a bunch of damage, then who's gonna maintain those repairs? And so, I'm not opposed to it. I just think, again, if council decides to go this route, it needs to be from a municipally led initiative for this specific blocks on a localized improvement similar to what was done on the properties west of Victoria Park, where it was put in by the town based on our specifications, and they paid the appropriate costs. The block next to it decided that it was cost prohibitive and there wasn't support, and it didn't go ahead. But there isn't a lot of these gray areas. So again, if we can make it work, fantastic. But I think those are just some cautions for you to consider when you make your determination.
Because the nice thing, Warren, is that I think all of us, we want you to have raw water. We just have to figure out how best to do it. And the concept of co-ops is just a little bit scary, to me as a councillor.
Everything's scary. I mean, I guess my concern is, I understand what Curtis is saying, but I've seen from the quotes that I've been given,
Yeah, that's
once
a
the
huge
town
difference.
gets involved, the cost absolutely skyrockets. And I don't know why.
That's gotta be
It
investigated.
just
There's must be
absolutely goes nuts.
Are your quotes, quoting the same material that we would
Yes.
recommend? Okay.
Yes. As far as I know.
Okay, I just thought there could be a big difference on the different material that they're using, right?
Perhaps, Warren, if you could provide
But-
those quotes, we can have them look over on our end, and that could be part of the conversation we can have.
Well, I think that's part of the reason we're here, is we didn't wanna go to a lot of this work and
Yeah.
come here and say, we've done all of this, and we've got prices, and we've got contractors, et cetera, and then you guys go, oh, we're not even interested at all. So what we're saying is, look, if you are interested in, then we will pursue it and bring back information and get quotes, get facts, get figures, and can come and give you, an accurate cost of what it's gonna be.
I don't wanna speak for everybody, but I think we're interested. So, I mean, we really want Raymond to be green and lush all summer long, so,
And like Councillor Foss said, this might be one way we can approach it,
yeah.
trying to get it the town green, is to have our different areas of town having their own little co-ops.
Well, I mean, we say, well, who do we supply? Well, and it's easy for me to say this because we're right close to it, but to me, the people that are the closest to the green stip, like it or not,
It's a natural place to start.
that's the natural place to start.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't start at the
I-
north
I-
end of town.
Councillor Harker, you have a comment?
I like the idea, I really do. And, I guess before when we looked at this, we wanted to make it equitable. But the fact is, because of where the lines are situated and how it is right now, it really can't be equitable without a big, huge cost to the town. But I agree with Councillor Fromm in that anybody that we can have access raw water and do it in a way that actually works. I understand from our CEO that there's logistical problems that need to be answered and rectified and made so that it doesn't become an ongoing problem. But if we can solve those problems, I think that we should let everybody, water their lawns and, make our town beautiful and green. I love the idea.
Does anybody else have a
Curtis?
comment? Or Councillor Peters?
Curtis, this is for you, I guess, as the manager of the Water Commission. Any idea, I know it'd be very hard to predict, any idea if we let, let's say, 15 users onto this water line, any idea what the cost of treated water might go up to?
That will be almost insignificant in that case. It's as it grows out, the larger the volume of people that are on raw water versus potable water, that has to be a substantial percentage though before it's gonna make a noticeable difference. 15, 20 houses isn't really gonna tip the scale. I mean, we're talking cubic, there's about 240 gallons in a cubic meter, and the town of Raymond produces some 650,000 cubic meters a year for our potable water consumption. So until that really delineates a lot from that volume, you're not gonna see a noticeable difference
Okay.
on these one-off approaches.
Does anybody else have a question or a comment for Warren? Okay, well, we appreciate you coming, Warren. We'll be discussing this more
So we
next
won't
week,
do anything then till we hear from you.
for sure. Let us discuss it more in our discussion
That'll
committee.
take 4 more years.
Except for the quotes you talk about, like, I'd like to get to the bottom of that huge discrepancy. I mean, if it's one thing, it's a couple of $1,000s, but I mean, when it's like 4 times as much, I'd like to understand why that is. So, I don't know if you wouldn't mind just maybe working with the administration
Sure.
and supplying information?
Happy to.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for coming.
Thanks, Warren.
Randy, I didn't know you lived in that neighborhood. That's,
There you go, see?
now I don't
I'm
know.
glad that you finally caught up.
It's about time, man.
Yeah. Well, I don't.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
yep, thanks for coming.
Thanks, Randy.
So, our next on the agenda is, Joe Canio, and he's got a different situation. This is one that's really interesting, so Joe called me up a couple weeks ago and he had me go out and look. So behind Darcy Hagee's place is a pump house. So there's that canal that comes out along there behind Mendenhall's in the county, behind Hagee's, and it ends right there, and that's the green strip that we've filled in. And at the end of that canal is a pump house. And Joe wanted to know who owns that pump house. We went and looked, and inside that pump house it looks like all brand new pumps, and it's ready to go and work. So Joe and I both tried to ask questions and find out, and we found out it belongs to the school. But the pump house belongs to the town, but everything in the pump house belongs to the school. So Joe made a call to Mazantunik, of the West Winds, and talked to him about it. So what he's interested in is trying to see if we can get that line going again. It used to come in, and we think it went straight to the schools, but where else did it go? And why couldn't the residents there tie into that line that are on that area of town if they could tie into it? So Joe, have I said too much, or do you want to add more?
I just really, I just kinda wanna know, who's got the blueprints or whatever, so we can look into exactly where these lines go, so we can pursue it, like.
Mayor?
Councillor Peters, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's what the school division used to pump, or used to come out of that canal to feed the whole school. So that line is the one that's right beside my house. So it was disconnected from that old line that fed out by RTA Hagee's, and now it was attached to that line that the town put in along the green strip.
So does it go down there, like in the road? I'm not sure what the number of that road is, but like in front of Canio's, straight down to where your house is?
No, it comes down behind, I'm not gonna use names, but it comes back down to the green strip, and it ties on right there, back behind those properties. That cul-de-sac there on, I don't know, 200 south or so.
That's where the line comes now, right?
Yeah, that's where it comes down. So there's not a separate line. That's where that line comes in and then feeds down to the school, that alley beside my place.
So I think where Joe's talking about is the line where it's coming from the canal, where it's coming in and where it goes. Like it did come in, and I think you're right. I think they did cut it off somewhere and connect it to the other line. but he's just talking about that line where it's coming in from that pump house on that canal.
Yeah, I don't know if it goes anywhere else rather than, it did go to that one line that feeds down past my place, so it doesn't come over. It would've been nice if it came over back behind my parents' place, back by Joe's that way, but I don't think it does.
To my knowledge, it came from the pump house down the green strip and then straight north between the lane that you're speaking of to the school. And I think it was abandoned just due to water pressure issues and just holes in the pipe. And it
Yeah,
started
it's
coming
leaking.
from the east side because, and that's why the school invested in the pumps in the town water, the original water treatment plant on the east side by Corner Lake. But when we were able to get the gravity flow pipe from the water plant down over there, when we did the ridge lodge infrastructure, that was able to be abandoned, and we have pressure now versus pump. And so there is infrastructure there. Whether or not it's in that good a condition, I don't know. I'm sure we can track down drawings of what it is, but I think it comes down again in principle to what council's direction is and feelings with respect to the expansion of raw water. And once we get some specifics there, we can then start looking at some of these individual specific or applications that we're starting to receive, it sounds like, by previous delegation, Joe, and these other letters that we received, so.
Any other comments, Joe, on this? You wanna?
So what you're saying is that the lines might not be good enough to use, or?
This is all going from information I heard before I was the CAO over the last 12 years. My recollection was that that line had some challenges, which is why it was abandoned coming west and we came in from the east, but I'd have to clarify that.
So I think that's one of Joe's questions too, is no one seems to know where the line actually goes. Like he thought maybe it somehow it cut behind Vance's. That's
Yeah,
what you kind of
I
thought?
at first, but I actually talked to Joe Ruers. And
Oh, he would know.
he knows quite a bit, and he verified that it goes beside Councillor Peters' place, that it ran past there, but I didn't know that line, they're still using that line to water the school.
Yeah.
Did he say, Joe, in the old days, when I was on the school board, we used to have, this is way back in the John Halverson days, there was a place that came, that, I don't know where it came on the south edge of town, but the line came right up past John Halverson's house and through Doug Hill's place and straight up to the school from there. Doug Hill, I think, has been on that system for years and years and years. But I don't know what line that would have come from.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, that this would be part of that line, but I don't know for sure, because Doug.
Mayor,
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Peters.
I just got a text from somebody who knows that line came up, back by Wally's subdivision that he's put in, and right by some of the properties there, that it teed off and it came back, down, beside, Ranger's place, that's right there to the green ship, then tees off and goes through, the Hills property, like I said, that cul-de-sac area, down north, right past, my house to the school, so that's that whole same line. But
Okay,
I
that's
was
the
totally
oldest,
kinda cut
I
up,
think that's the oldest one.
cut up as the development was happening over in Wally World.
Interesting. I think this is something that maybe we could explore too, just to see more about this, but if there's water there and there's pumps available to push it, maybe we should be looking into that too, because that's another way to get some water into our town area. I think that's what Joe's concerned about.
Yes, so if I wanted to get those lines going on my own, would the town be against that? Like if I use those pumps, because Darren Mazantunik says that they would work with me on this issue, like that I could use those pumps if needs be.
So what he's saying is this kind of the same thing as Warren. Maybe he would get a co-op together of people in that area. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
And try to get that pump going, because it's gonna cost some money. Everything's there but the power. The power's there, but it's not connected to it. There's not a meter, in other words. So yeah, I think that's something we should be looking at too. That could be in our discussions next week too, or in the future. I don't know how much time you have, Curtis, if it's next week or in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or.
I mean, we can bring it back to committee for next week, just for discussion with those other two groups. We may not have all of the answers to these questions, but we can definitely continue that discussion. I just might say, initially, the town of Raymond had 3 water co-ops on our rural property in our fringe, and that was the genesis of our rural water network. At some point, all 3 of those were turned over to the town, and now the town has to maintain and expand that infrastructure. And I think doing something similar in town may not be the best course of action, but again, I'll stop saying that, that's up to you guys to decide, so.
Well, I think everyone will eventually be turned over to the town, no matter how many co-ops we come up with. So, are you involved with the other guys that, like Sheldon and Kristen and those that want raw water as well? Or is this just your own initiative?
I'm just looking, I was just basically looking for myself at first, but,
Okay.
I'm not against it,
But you can see there's lots of interest in town,
Yeah.
so.
yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Anyone else have a question on this one?
But I see names on this other list that we got emails on that used to be on raw water from the old school line. So obviously that line's not working anymore.
They did?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because there's a hydrant, in Patrick Roach's property that I think is branched off from that line, which isn't functioning anymore. But I don't know because I don't have any drawings on it or schematics, so.
See, it'd be interesting to try to hook some kind of power up to it, a generator, and just
See what happens.
run that line and see where it goes, see where
See
the
where it comes
water
up.
leaks are. Maybe it goes right through your yard, Councillor Fromm.
It
Maybe it
might.
goes right through your yard.
We'll see where a flood happens or a swamp is formed.
Mayor,
But it's something we could look at, yes.
that line must be small. I remember when I was working for the school division, there was a time where if the school was watering, they were good. But if there was a neighbor that lived in that area that went and tied on illegally, and so he'd be watering his garden and on his whole yard, and the school would lose pressure and not be able to run their heads. So they'd always go and turn off his water, turn on their system. Finally, they ended up having to just cut him off, and he got upset. Just because again they didn't have the pressure that they needed. So it'd be interesting to wonder. I wonder what size that line was, that speed that came out of that pump house. But I know they had issues, and that's pretty well why the school division tied on with the town's line, because the town's line was probably a little bit bigger and probably in better working condition than that previous line.
Very
And that
interesting.
legitimizes your former question too, about pressure for everybody else and, okay.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay. Well, it gives us some discussion for next week.
Okay,
You can see it's a big issue.
Thanks for coming, Joe.
okay, thank you.
So, Joe, would you be opposed if we reached out to you just to get some specifics as part of this conversation? For sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you, Joe.
Okay. Right. Anyway, let's move on. Number 4, the approval of the minutes. May 5th minutes, council minutes. Everybody had an opportunity to look over them. Councillor Fromm moves the minutes of May 5th. Any, all in favor?
I'm getting there.
That's probably good.
I've had lots of trouble tonight, so I'm sorry.
If that's, okay, there we
There
go.
it is.
Okay. That's unanimous. The May 12th council committee minutes.
I'll approve those.
Councillor Price makes that motion. Any discussion on them? Then all in favor? Okay. This is a new way we have to do things. It takes a while for everybody to push buttons. Let's move down to the financial report. You have the bank, the April bank reconciliation. Any questions on this from anybody?
I'll move to approve.
Okay. Councillor Peters moves to approve the bank reconciliation. All in favor? Check listing. 5.2. Any questions on the check listing?
Mayor,
Yes.
if I may just insert here, the fact that in our audit and finance committee meeting, we've gone through all of these reports and are capable and ready to answer any questions that might be required of us. Our overall opinion was that actually we're in pretty good shape with things right now, and then the reports are looking very good. So I think it's just detail concerns that any council member has that they want to address. I think we're headed in the right direction so far with the operating budget and all of that stuff. So just so you're aware of that.
Okay, great, thank you. So I have a question on 712, Curtis. The town is buying topsoil?
Certain loads we bring in for various projects, yes, of a higher quality, so our original stockpile has been greatly diminished. That used to be at Victoria Sports Park, and so at times we do have to bring in topsoil.
You would think we'd have enough topsoil around from all the digging we do. You says it was a better quality of topsoil, or you just didn't, topsoil wasn't as,
It's depending on the use. Sometimes we do have some, but we don't necessarily always have the volume where it's being set aside for other projects. But we don't have a large quantity of stock topsoil anymore. A lot of it has been used with a lot of different projects we've done.
okay. Anyone else have any questions?
No.
Okay, we need a motion to, accept the check listing.
I'll move to approve the check listing.
Councilor Harker, so all in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. Then we'll go to the operating budget, and Councilor Price has talked about this already. Councilor Foss, Councilor Fromm, any comments
Pretty
from you?
appropriate for the amount of the year that's expired. You can see that the amount of budget that's used up in this left is pretty much bang on.
Okay, good. So we need a motion to accept this, the operating budget.
I'll move.
Councillor Higgy, any discussion from anybody? Any questions? All in favor? Okay, that was unanimous. I didn't look at you guys. You guys both said.
Yeah.
Keep looking that way. Okay, items for discussion. 6.1, the COVID-19 updates. Curtis, we'll go to you.
I've attached the three most recent updates from municipal affairs regarding changing legislation with the changing conditions of the relaunch of the province. One of the things that is up for council to decide is what you'd like to do with playgrounds, campgrounds, tennis courts, and things of that nature.
Is anybody else having a hard time hearing Curtis? Curtis, are you by a mic? You're very, very
I'm
soft.
about 5.5 inches from a mic. I can lean forward closer if you'd like.
Oh, I don't know why you're so soft. I can hear everybody but you. Okay, I'll try to turn my thing up.
Is anyone else on council having a difficult time hearing me?
You're definitely quieter than the rest.
Could you please speak up?
Sure. Is that better? So I guess the question is going to be, what would council like to do with playgrounds, campgrounds, tennis courts? The province has allowed those to be reopened if each municipality decides, and so I guess that's left to your discretion. The only thing we would say is that we would just make sure that we advertise that while the playgrounds are and tennis courts and things like that would be open, that residents and users are still encouraged to wash their hands regularly, because we won't be doing any type of sanitization of those facilities. If we do decide to open up the campground, the washroom, shower, I'm not sure actually if there are showers, but the washroom facility would be closed. It would not be opened, but each individual site would have access to services that they could access from there. And so those are three specific questions we're looking for as updates as the council would like to decide to have the playgrounds, the campground, and the tennis courts reopened. The other thing is the last attachment that is there, it's locked just because there's some certain information that's not necessarily public, but the intent of it is that, Park Enterprises, which is our safety codes inspecting company, is being proactive in the intent that they feel that there'll be an increased amount of above ground backyard pools that may be going into people's yards this year, just in light of everything. If it's over 2 feet, it does require a permit. And so part of this is to spread awareness of that if your above ground pool, regardless if it's blow up or whatever type of temporary nature it is, if it's over 2 feet, it does require a permit in that sense. That they're willing to reduce those permit fees from $275.63 to $150 during this time, as part of a concession to help make those of value. If council is in favor of that, they're just looking for your basically a motion saying that you agree with that because it will reduce the fees, basically.
So those are those swimming pools you're talking about that are
Yeah.
3 feet deep and maybe 8 feet round, 10 feet round?
Yeah, there could be a whole bunch of different ways, but anything over 2 feet
Oh,
technically
really?
requires a permit.
Can I speak to that? Okay, just real quick, the reason why is we wanna make sure that there is a requirement on temporary pools to have a cover, and there's a specific type of cover that we ask for safety reasons, or that they have an fenced yard. We obviously have to be careful with wandering children, that sort of thing that may enter someone's backyard, and that has happened, and they may have a good old time in the pool. So the reason why there is a permit, it's not a development permit per se, it's just a permitted use like a business license, is to ensure that that park usually makes sure that they have what is required for those pools to be safe for our neighborhoods. But that is, so that'll be the check and balance that's gonna be at the end. It's not just a rubber stamp. I just wanna make that really clear. This isn't just paying a fee to have something. The Park Enterprises will make sure with these owners that they have what is proper, make sure that it's safe.
So it's not a liability, it's just,
Well, it's a huge liability for the park, for the landowners, for the homeowners.
that's what I mean.
Yeah,
If they're gonna have it, then it's a liability. I mean, to get that permit from Park, does that give them an out for liability then if
It
someone
gives
drowns?
them, it makes sure that they have what we require. As far as mitigating the risk, you know, every yard and every home's different, but, we're gonna make sure that they have what, at least the minimum safety requirements that we require for those pools.
But if they leave the gate open and don't cover it, then they're liable,
Yeah.
Exactly.
right? They still have to keep standards.
I do have to say something here as a mother and as a grandmother of a whole bunch of people in this town. Again, I hope the cure, not having the pool open, isn't worse than what we're creating here. Because you know, as well as I know, you're gonna have a bunch of teenagers and, 12-year-old, 13, that can't go to the pool, and guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna go to the canals, they're gonna go wherever they want to, and I sure hope that we don't have some kids drowning because, we are so worried about having our pool open, which I think is ridiculous. So I'm just verbalizing that because I think we're creating a bigger problem than I would rather declare a state of emergency and have our pool open than worry about some child drowning in a 3-foot pool in somebody's backyard. Just my opinion. And I think it's pretty valid. Excuse me.
So our land use bylaw already permits these pools. So if council would like to temporarily change that, would they have to go to a SOL to temporarily change it, or just change the land use bylaw? Because it is a permitted use.
I think Councilor Harker's, and if I'm misspeaking for you, Councilor Harker, please correct me, but I think she's referring to going against the province's direction of allowing pools to be open, requiring the state of local emergency to be declared, which allows the municipality to make their own determination as to what they want to do in those aspects. I'm not sure she's necessarily referring to the land use bylaw implications of above ground pools. Is that correct, Councilor Harker?
You're right. I'm just saying we're creating more problems by not having our pool open than personally I, as a mother and grandmother, want to deal with. I just think that I'm not an expert, but I think the risk is less to have your municipal pool open than it is to worry about all the fallout from what's gonna happen to a bunch of people all over the province, just not in our town. I think they're being very, very, very short-sighted, but again, that's my opinion, and it's a very strong one.
And so just to go off of that too, I think what our director of community development was mentioning there is that regardless of whether or not the province has issued this directive that pools can't open until phase 3 of the relaunch, the land use bylaw already has regulations inside it dictating what can and cannot go into a backyard for pools, and what requires a permit and what doesn't. And so regardless of whether or not you decide to open the pool or not, if someone wanted to have an above ground pool over 2 feet, they would still have to follow this process. Normally that fee would be the $275.63 for that to go through. They're saying that that can be reduced this year in light of everything to $150. So I think Councilor Harcred is definitely valid in her thinking of her perspective, but I think regardless, there's 2 matters here. Regardless of whether or not you decide to go against Sol and have those above the town's pool open, the above ground pool in a backyard that's above 2 feet still requires to go through this process. So if you're looking for giving the public an opportunity to take advantage of this reduced rate, then a motion is required. If you're looking to go against the province's declaration, I think that's a separate discussion than what's being asked in this email.
So is this paid to Park Enterprises?
Yes, it's a portion to Park Enterprises and to the town, but it does go to Park Enterprises and then we're reimbursed for our costs.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so I think you understand what Curtis is talking about on these fees for the pools?
Yeah, we want to make it as safe as we can, so we better make them get their permits.
So I guess you have to appreciate Park Enterprises in reducing the price of the fee, just because they know people might want to be swimming in their own backyard.
If they came to us and said, hey, we'd like to reduce the, fees for buildings or for new, renovations, I'd jump all over it. So I'm in favor of that, but I'm not in favor of reducing what portion of it comes to town. Would that all be them absorbing the reduction?
Yes.
No, that's good.
So we'd still get the same percentage as we normally
Yes.
get.
That's very good of them.
Okay,
We
But-
feel that we've all been fielding calls on pools. There's quite a spike in interest. in
So
having
it's
these.
real.
Yes, very significant.
so we need a motion on that then?
But as far as the original question, I am, back to whether we should open campground and stuff. I think we should open everything that the province allows us to open. I was quite surprised to know that we had some late leeway. We didn't have to open the town offices if we didn't want to. I didn't know that. So,
Well, and then the tape is gone from the playgrounds, Curtis.
Yeah, it's disappeared. Some is still up.
It wasn't you that took it down, I figured it was the town.
We were
price.
waiting for council to give that direction.
Okay,
Mayor.
I didn't know that. Councilor Foss, go ahead.
I had a question about that the first question in front of us around playgrounds, campgrounds. It says in that memo from the province on May 15th that we can open them, but that is if the recommended guidelines can be met, such as routine cleaning, disinfecting, and then it refers to a document which, from my reading of it, would require us to have a scheduled cleaning of any outdoor equipment, hand sanitizer available, a list of other requiring signage. Am I reading that correctly?
I'd have to go through the specifics again, Councilor Foss, but I'm sure you are correct in your reading.
That's my only pause, is that if this means we have town crews, at playgrounds a couple of times a day, washing
Sanitizing.
every surface, that might be a lot to ask.
Well, as it gets warmer, I guess they could spray it down. That wouldn't be a big ask. They'd still have to go there, but right now to go there and do it all by hand, yeah, you're right, that's a big ask.
I'm still in favor of opening up anything that the province allows us to open up.
I am too, Councillor Fromm.
I am too, you know, again, I'm a mother and a grandmother. What's wrong with having the onus be on the parents? They're not idiots. I mean, if you take your kids to a park, maybe you might want to have some wipes with you. I mean, just saying. I mean, we're assuming that everybody is really stupid. I think some people are cautious and smart enough that they can, you know, wipe their kids' hands or wipe I mean, in the sunshine, it's killed anyways. I don't
Ours
know, I
doesn't
can't
handle
even
heat
talk
very
about
well,
it.
so.
I also
I
agree.
only raise questions because there's a legal requirement here, right? If we're saying we're opening it and the province is saying you may if check, are we prepared to adhere to check on the list of things we must do?
I didn't see that.
I'm
Was
support-
there a list somewhere?
There was a list, so in that memo, the May 15th memo, there was a FAQ that said, can municipalities open these facilities? I think it's on page 2, towards the bottom right. Yes, like other municipal facilities, may choose to open outdoor recreation facilities if the recommended guidelines can be met, such as, and then it says cleaning, disinfecting, guidance for outdoor recreation, workplace safety, documentation. And so it refers to 2 PDF documents there, which are quite detailed in what they require outdoor recreation and businesses to be able to adhere to in order to be open. So I'm supportive of opening them. 100% supportive of opening them if we are complying with the legal requirements, and if we're comfortable with that, which I don't know enough about what the workload would be for our town crews to say, yeah, I'm 100% supportive of them doing this work.
Any other comment from anybody on this? Well, we have to make we have to come up with a decision here. Just like the province has come out with lessening the restrictions in the province except for Calgary and Brooks, I think it's kind of the same thing with us. I mean, we don't have any cases in our county, in our town. We don't want any cases either, but we don't have any, and I think we can lessen the restrictions in our town too. That's my opinion on it. And so, I mean, I think you have a valid concern, Councillor Foss, but I'm not sure with our reduced staff we're going to be able to do exactly what is being said in those documents that's coming from the province. Anyone else have a comment?
I do, I just
I
having
mean,
read.
couldn't you have a summer student go past the parks, spray them twice a day? I mean, along with that tape. I don't know, I just think that we have limited so much of what anybody can do that it's, you know, you can see everybody out and they're just kind of doing what they want. There's already been kids playing on the playgrounds, by the way, in case nobody's seen them. I have.
I will just say,
To normalize it.
I don't know that we are the we in that we statement. We have restricted what they can do. I'm only suggesting, and I would be supportive of a motion that says, we open them if administration, after reviewing this, is comfortable with the workload required.
If we get some cases here and we become a hot spot, everything will be shut down in Raymond anyway.
Let me just tell you one thing. I clicked on that, Stuart, and I'm glad you brought that up, but having read it, that applies to outdoor recreation businesses. So outdoor mini golf and things like that, people who are running things like trampoline parks or whatever. If you have a business and you're attracting people, you gotta keep it clean. But if
Oh, that's,
There's two
okay, that's what I
documents.
thought I read
There's
too.
two
I didn't
documents
read the
there
other.
that Council
Okay.
from. The first one is guidance for outdoor recreation,
uh-huh.
not for workplace businesses, and that one states that public spaces, and in that they refer to municipalities may choose to open fields, playgrounds, and courts for public use. but league play is not permitted, and then it goes into activities and says activities in public spaces, so that would refer to the bullet ahead, the category above it. Require physical distancing at least 2 meters, if not, barriers should be in place. Activities in public spaces should not include the sharing of common equipment unless the individuals are from the same household. Clean and disinfect equipment prior to and after use. And so I think the question is are we considering a playground common equipment? I think you can make the argument that it is, and although, I think Councillor Harker's made some valid points, the reality is regardless of whether or not we're giving people too much or too little credit, when problems happen, and legal challenges tend to come up, the municipality is always brought in, and so regardless of whether or not kids are playing on it, council's made an official motion that they're not allowed to, and so regardless, I think we would have cover there that people disregarded that motion. If we decide to go ahead with it and allow that to happen, if we are deemed to be in contravention of these guidelines here that we are not doing it, then I think we are opening up to that challenge. So I think, the city of Lethbridge, and I was curious about this, and I didn't have a chance to do more research, but there was an article in the paper in Lethbridge about how playgrounds are gonna be open, but Henderson Lake was closed. And I wasn't quite sure why, and I was hoping to be able to figure that out today before the meeting, but it might be in light to this, that the city just deemed that they didn't have the resources capable to go ahead and maintain that. Because you can't just go spray it with a hose, technically you have to have some kind of sanitization, and are you gonna wipe down every surface? When you think about the square footage of a playground structure, that's a lot of square footage. And so I think it's probably a bit more cumbersome than it may seem at first glance. So, we don't have to make that decision today. We can get more information, and do it next week or the week after. Next week could be, unofficially, and then it could be ratified the following week, but.
I feel like we could pass a motion conditional on, whatever, like approved if the administration reviews the guidelines and they're whatever. I don't know how you'd word that, but I have kids that wanna play at playgrounds, I don't wanna be a stick in the mud, but I do wanna make sure the town is doing this in the right way, the way the province requires.
Would you want to make a motion on that, Councillor Foss?
Yeah, I guess if I were to make that motion, the motion would be that we approve the reopening of the public facilities, pending administration's review of the guidelines and their acceptance that it's a reasonable amount of work for them to comply.
Everybody understand that? Any questions?
I still don't read it that way. I don't agree with the fact that the town is responsible for cleaning the playground equipment before and after use. I read that, guidance for outdoor
If that's the reading of it, then the motion can still, if they read it and say, we don't have to comply to this, then.
If I'm gonna take my kids to a playground, then I have to realize I should clean and disinfect equipment prior to and after use. I don't read that's a responsibility that lies on the town. I do read that that's a responsibility that lies for outdoor business owners who are having equipment they're inviting the public to come and use. I seriously, I've read it 2 or 3 times, I don't read it that way. I think that parents are responsible for cleaning the equipment before their kids use it, or anybody who schedules the activity. It doesn't
That's
say.
how I read it too, Ron. I
It doesn't
read
say
it this stuff.
specifically.
That's
Yeah.
how I read
I
it.
think Councillor Price has a comment.
Oh, hold on, I gotta unmute.
We have a number of playgrounds that are on school grounds. Are there different guidelines for us with the school grounds? Are they considered property of the school and not the town? And what is the jurisdiction with those areas?
Yeah, we do not have any jurisdiction over the school playgrounds, so they would have to make the determination for use on their facilities.
Have they
Schools
opened
buy
theirs
them
up?
and maintain them.
Did they take the tape off theirs? Are they open now or what?
I don't believe they have, but I can't say that 100%.
Do you know anything about that, Councillor Computers?
No, we had an administration meeting this morning or this afternoon, and that didn't come up at all. So if we weren't told that it's come off, then I would say it's still probably enforced. And I still don't feel comfortable going against the provincial recommendations at this time.
So what are you saying there? Because they're saying we can open them up. So which way are you? You don't want
I
to
don't
open
feel
them
like
up?
to come out, I don't wanna go against provincial recommendations and put us in a liable situation where it could be anything, and I know that the chances are very small, very minute, but I still feel comfortable making a decision, that could land us in hot water if the province is saying one thing, and we go against any recommendations, including taking out Seoul, to do certain things within the town.
Okay. Well, we have a motion on the floor from Councillor Foss. Do you wanna read back that motion, Curtis?
Council directs administration to review the guidelines related to playgrounds and, if they feel that they can maintain those guidelines, that they can open the playgrounds to the public.
Okay. Does that sound good, Councillor Foss?
I think that captures my intent, yeah.
Okay, that's, any other discussion on this motion then? So I'll call the vote then, all in favor? So I got one thumb down, does that mean not in favor? Any opposed, does that mean you oppose?
Yeah, I oppose it. Yeah, I oppose.
Okay, any other opposed? Councillor Hagee opposed, okay. So it's 5-2 then? It was kinda hard, I couldn't see who voted and who didn't vote, cause I'm trying to watch that. You for it then?
I'm for it because the motion doesn't bother me.
Okay.
Like I can still read that directive the way I do and still be in favor of opening them, but having administration look at it and see if we can comply with the restrictions doesn't bother me either way.
So
I don't see why
it-
anybody would
the-
vote
the-
against that.
So
Well,
it was,
the further issue that I had was that also in the, provincial recommendations is we have groups of up to 50 people now, correct?
Yeah.
Right? But you still have to maintain the 2-meter distance from anybody that's not in your household. So how do you control that on a playground? If there's 5 families there, how do you control that this family stays 2 meters away from this family?
well,
Magnets.
we
That's
just
what we do
sec,
with magnets.
You know, like, it's-
we already had the vote though, and the motion
Yeah.
is going forward that we're gonna accept Councillor Foss's motion 5-2, so.
So I will, dig into that and we'll reach out to some other sources and I'll send an email out to council with an update as to what we've decided and why.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's a disagreeable motion in any way.
Did you have anything else on that, Curtis, that we need to talk about?
Well, there's, campgrounds and tennis courts, so, we've had, at least one inquiry on tennis courts, we haven't had any, campgrounds to date, and so, but they are technically allowed to be open.
Okay, what's your discussion on campgrounds, everybody?
Mayor,
Councillor Capeters?
was I hearing June 1st, the province is gonna open up provincial campgrounds? Anybody else heard that?
Yes, that's a fact.
Provincial campgrounds, yes, June.
They were not open this
Yeah.
long weekend.
June 1st, Ridge Park is open, and Artha and Levi are running that. June 1st is the day.
So maybe June 1st is a good date to open ours up to then? Is that what
I
you're
believe-
thinking?
Yeah, I follow that. If the province comes out and says, hey, we're opening provincial campgrounds, I'd follow suit with our town, for sure.
Yep, I agree with that too.
how about following their guidelines where it's only 50% capacity?
Well, I think,
For restaurants. I've never heard them say that about
They,
parks.
that's what, I was in Waterton the other day, and that's what
Oh,
we're talking about Waterton.
I'm sure they'll
There's
try
only
to
50% capacity in the campground.
regulate their social distancing.
That's federal.
Yeah, that's true, that's fair. Forgot. That's
So,
fair. My bad.
does someone have, oh, Councillor Price, go ahead.
I've also heard that the national parks are going to be opening up along those same timeframes. To what extent, I don't know, but I know that that was a comment that, I heard here just in the last couple of days.
So is this, one that we could wait on for a future council meeting to make a vote on this one?
This is your last council meeting before June 1st, so if you'd like to make a decision.
You wanna make the motion now then,
Well, it's up to you.
council? Someone wanna make the motion, or
I will.
Councillor Fromm? Go ahead.
Yeah, I move that we open up, our municipal parks along the same guidelines as the province and their provincial parks.
Okay, everybody hear that? Any discussion on it?
No.
And I'll call the vote, all in favor? You two are okay?
Yeah.
It's hard to watch everything. Okay, it's unanimous. And what was the third point, Curtis?
Tennis courts and then the above ground pool permit fee.
Tennis courts. Do we have to have a motion for each one of these separately? I guess we
Well,
are.
You got different
Opinions on it.
dates, kind of thing that we're complying with those.
Okay, so tennis courts, what's everybody's opinion on this one?
Open them.
Yeah.
People are using them already anyway.
And there's social distancing when you
And
play
did you-
tennis.
there's meters between.
Councillor Capeters?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what Council From's saying is right. I've looked around and talked to people that are doing tennis in Lethbridge and other communities. The distance that you're playing is significant. They did talk about, I saw something online about, sharing rackets and things, but more or less that gets wiped down. But I think I feel comfortable with opening tennis courts, and I'd make that motion.
Okay, a motion is made by Councillor Capeters. Any other discussion on this?
Lethbridge opened theirs up today,
They did?
with very strong restrictions, but they opened theirs up.
Good. Okay, so all in favor? Okay, that was unanimous. And the other ones is the rates for the pools by Park Enterprises. Someone wanna make a motion on that one?
I'm in favor of that.
Councillor
Pay
Fromm?
redemption for permits.
Any other discussion on this? I think we've had good discussion already. I'll
Could I
call-
have just a quick clarification?
Sure.
These rates were lowered, is that what I'm understanding?
Yes.
Yes,
What were they before?
$267.50, $167.50.
Oh, so they're only lowering it by $12.
No, 112.
$112.50.
112. Oh, 267. Okay. All right.
Mayor,
Yes, Councillor
maybe
Capeters.
this is for Curtis. Do we know how many people have got permits over the last 2 years on little outdoor pools?
No, but I'd say it's probably less than should have.
I asked Mark that there's been none that we've.
I'm sure. Okay, so Councillor Fromm's got a motion on the floor. Any other discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Okay, that was unanimous. Okay, let's move on to 6.2. The second reading of bylaw 1086-20, the tax rate bylaw. So you see there's 4 letters that we've been sent to us, all disapproving in us raising the taxes. I don't know about you, but I've had people that have contacted me and talked to me about it too. This is a tough one. Nobody wants their taxes raised. I don't know if you have heard, but in Lethbridge they were going to raise the taxes too, and it went past the first reading, and then on their second reading they decided to not raise the taxes. Kind of interesting. They decided that next year it'll probably be hit even double tough on the residents of Lethbridge. Does anybody have any comments on what they think of this, or what's our comments here?
I'm willing to listen to anything. If there's any way we can go without raising taxes, I'm all for it. But in past discussion over the last few weeks here, I'm not sure if we have any way to avoid it, but unless Marty or Curtis has found something else that can help us to get through this challenging year, especially this year, it sucks to have to try and do this.
Yeah, I don't know what it would look like if we didn't raise them. I guess you're online now, Marty? Yeah, I'm not sure what it would be like if we didn't raise the taxes, what implications would be for the town. Just a guesstimate, Marty?
We would be running in a deficit, that's for sure.
Of how much? Any idea?
Probably the $200,000 that we're trying to acquire due to the provincial cuts and downloads,
Yeah, it's probably $200,000.
which we are required to recoup. So you're delaying the inevitable, really.
Yep.
Council spent 9 to 10 months cutting approximately $1 million out of our operating budget from 19 to 20, which previous capital expenditure, interest and loan payments that we had to acquire. And we were able to do that so that there was not going to be any mill rate increase this year. However, due to the province's enhanced policing initiative, which added $57,000 in 2020, another $165,000 reduction in our municipal sustainability initiative operating grant, and another approximately $60,000 in education tax requisitions that we are required to collect on property taxes. That's where we are in this space, and we do not have, administratively, anyway, our recommendation is we do not have the space to do that. We've cut our wages by 33% since 2018. We are about at a bare bone capacity of what we need to operate the community, and we still need to be able to have supplies to maintain and operate our infrastructure that we have, so.
Okay, Councillor Price?
I've thought about this long and hard, and there is no answer to this, easy answer to this. I had an extensive discussion with my wife, who acted as the devil's advocate, and she does that very well. And what it boils down to me is that we need to go ahead with the tax rate increase as we're talking about, but we need to be very, very clear of the reasons, to the point that our tax return or our tax assessments, or even in advance of our tax assessments, we should put out a letter that details everything that has been done, everything that has been changed in our old budgets, everything that has been added to our budgets this year. We were close to a budget without an increase until we received all of the download costs from the province. And I really believe that it is in our best interest to at least give everybody all the details, all the facts, and perhaps the sooner the better, rather than going through, if we do second and third readings tonight, which we normally would, it will have to go out with our tax assessments. And I know that that's maybe later than I would have liked it, but I just totally believe that helping them understand may not ease the burden or ease the pain, but it does let them know what we have actually tried to do to make this work to the best of our ability. And secondly, we always need to remember that we're supposed to submit a balanced budget. And if we end up the year in a deficit, like there's a strong possibility we may, that deficit has to be absorbed in our next budget as well. And we have other additional costs being added next year that, you know, we don't know where this is going to take us. I honestly don't know where it's going to take us, and unless we get some bountiful blessing from somewhere we're not expecting, you know, we've got a lot of hard work ahead of us to get through this year and probably next year, and try to keep the tax rates at the point that we can. So my opinion is we do need to go ahead with this, but we need to be very open and honest as to why, and that we've done everything in our power to do the best that we can to make this work.
I agree with that, Councillor Price. I think that's a good suggestion, that we need to come up with that. We, obviously someone's gonna have to make a motion here to pass this second reading of this tax bylaw. I don't know if you saw, but I asked Curtis if he'd put on, you could go to it, it's on,
I've updated it since.
I just checked it. Council 2019 verse 2020, just so you can see on your own what it's doing in your own taxes on your own property. This is locked, so the public can't see what your taxes are. But this is something just so you can see how you're affected yourself. by the new tax bylaw.
Mayor,
Councillor Foss?
I was just gonna, I guess sort of second what Councilor Price has said. I do think we need to get, as much information as we can out in a way that, hopefully is clear to the public. I think that's, it's hard to help everyone see visibly the effort that's gone in to trying to get to a point where we had a balanced budget. And, I hoped, fingers crossed, that from first reading to second reading, we might see some relief from the province or the federal government, but it didn't come. And so here we are left with, I don't see any option but to approve this rate change.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? Been some good discussion so far.
Agree. I mean, we can't make everybody happy, and, unfortunately, some people don't really get, they just think it's because, we've got better sports facilities or we have mismanaged our spending. And none of that is really true. But like Councillor Foss says, we do need to make them understand that, this decision was not made lightly. But as Councillor Price says, we would be very amiss if we didn't move forward with this, because all we're doing is delaying the inevitable. And, people that have nicer houses are gonna pay more, but that's just how it works. And I don't know if there's any way around that, but the fact is we're gonna have to do this, I believe. And, we have to be responsible, and unfortunately, it may not be popular, but we need to do the right thing, which I think is go ahead with it.
So Curtis also put on your agenda that the Southern Alberta tax and utility comparison. As you can see from that, we're right in the middle of all the towns close to our size. Some of our neighbors just closest to us are even higher than us. So this is a good thing to send out too. It lets people be able to see exactly where everybody's at. You always hear the same story that we're way higher than everybody else, but really we're not way higher than everybody else. We're right in the middle.
Including Lethbridge.
You hear that all the time. Lethbridge taxes are way lower than Raymond, and it's not true.
It's not true.
Is this on the town website, Curtis, or can we make this available to people?
It is on the website. It has been posted as well. I think what's
Okay.
the important thing to note was this is as of 2019.
For sure.
We won't know where we fit within 2020. We will be on the higher end of this, at least on the mill rate perspective. But on the utility side, when you look at the graph, we are smack dab in the middle of that. If it's a green, that's the cheapest. If it's a red, it's the most expensive. And in both categories, Raymond was white or slightly pink. That will slightly go up on the tax column for sure. But the utility column, we're still bang on the average of those 46 municipalities. So it is still, we're definitely not the most expensive, but we will drop in that standing based on these survey results, unless other communities have had to do the same thing. And we won't know that yet until probably August of this year.
So this is something that, like Councillor Price was talking about, that could be sent out with their tax notice too, so people can see these things, plus more detailed information of why their taxes are going up. Correct?
Yeah, we could definitely send out information. It's just gonna put, the postage may be more, but that's fine. Or the email, I mean, most of them are gonna be
The email will be
honest.
tough, postage may be more, but,
Mayor?
yep, go ahead.
I know this is putting some pressure on admin to put this together, and I understand that, but what it will do is it will put into the hands of the public the information that they need to know. Now, they may not understand it, and so they will come to counselors, they will come to administration, they will come to whomever with their complaints and their concerns. But what we will have is we'll basically have a song sheet that we can all sing the same song from and explain the information in detail without any variation or confusion from our part, showing that we understand and that we've thought through this completely and have come to these decisions not just by run-of-the-mill process, but we have put many, many hours into what we're doing.
For sure, I agree with that. Okay,
Mayor,
Councillor Computers?
I'll get this out of the way. I'll move, second reading of bylaw 1086, 20, which is the 2020 tax rate bylaw. And then if there's any further discussion after that, I guess we can have that.
Okay, no, I was just gonna call for that, so I appreciate that. Any other discussion? Then we'll have the vote. All in favor?
Mayor?
Oh, before we vote,
Mayor?
Councillor Price?
I would like to maybe make sure that the approval includes an information sheet that will go out with the tax notices.
That is a direct tax rate bylaw, Curtis.
Okay, sorry, I thought that was the one I pulled off your audit and finance committee agenda, but I can make that adjustment.
Yeah, I was questioning that myself, whether that was the right bylaw number, but.
The one in front of the mayor is the actual one. So if you wanna pull it up on the server, you can do that. The mayor has a copy of it sitting on his desk.
We'll make that adjustment, just give us one moment.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't open a server online.
Sorry, I kind of missed that. Well, the issue is the bylaw number?
No, it's the wrong copy of the bylaw.
Oh, okay.
Go to data, governance, bylaws.
Yeah, I got it.
It's the very last one. And not the PDF copy, use the Word document.
Good catch, that's an important thing.
Is the bylaw number still correct, what I said?
Yep.
Okay.
Do you wanna amend your, motion to include what Councillor Price said, Councillor
Yeah,
Computers?
I've changed my motion to add what Councilor Price said, that we add, some information for the public.
Okay. Any other discussion on this?
It won't make people happier to pay their taxes, but at least they'll know why we've done this. And I think it's also very important for the public to know that our taxes are going up too. I mean, there's no special dispensation for anybody in administration or town council. Our taxes are going up just like everybody else's. So the people who have made the decision haven't been self-serving. This is really just an attempt to balance our budget, which is our responsibility and has to be done.
Which we're required to do.
Yes.
Okay,
Mayor?
Councillor
Mayor?
Foss, sure.
Sorry, one last question, just to clarify, so is what we're looking at here that you're sharing on the screen, that matches what we passed first reading of last week, or 2 weeks ago?
Yes, this Word document is the actual one that was passed 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Okay. So everybody understands that then? Thanks for clearing that up, Marty, we appreciate that.
Yep.
So I'll call for the vote then, all in favor? Okay, that was unanimous. So 6.3, do you want to do the third reading or do you want to wait 2 weeks and do it then?
I think we should go ahead and I will, call for the third reading of, this tax bylaw with, again, the information going out to the public.
Any other discussion on this?
It puts administration in severe position for getting the taxes, notices, et cetera, out on a timely basis if we delay it 2 more weeks. So I'm in favor of moving forward with the motion tonight.
Okay, we have a
So
motion then.
we're also in cash flow issue, just to give you a heads up. So the sooner we can get tax notices out, the sooner we can get more money in, so.
Okay,
Thank you for that. Appreciate it, Mark.
so you have the information in front of you, so I'm gonna call the vote. All in favor? Okay, that was unanimous too. Okay, we'll move on to 6.4, the second reading of bylaw 1087-20. We talked about this last week. Go ahead, is this you, Abe?
Yep, so we had first reading a couple weeks ago, and then we posted on Facebook. We did not get any, and the town website did not get any feedback or comments or questions. And so it's up for second and third reading tonight.
Okay, so we need a motion for a second reading.
I'll move second
Counselor-
reading of 1087-20.
Okay. Any discussion on this? Then all in favor?
I'll move third.
And Councillor Fromm is moving third reading. Any discussion on this? Then all in favor? There we go, okay. That was unanimous too. So 6.6, the second reading of bylaw 1090-20, the Regional Assessment Review Board bylaw. Abe, you wanna talk about this one?
Sure, it's gonna sound exactly the same as what I just said. But again, we had first reading a couple weeks ago, and no comments from the public. Like the previous bylaw, we are required to legislatively to have these bylaws, and we currently do not. Both bylaws sync with our existing practices. We're not proposing any changes. The one thing about this bylaw, after third reading is passed, we do require a motion to approve the ORS director as a regional assessment review board clerk.
Okay,
So I'll move second reading of this bylaw.
so thanks Abe. Councillor Fromm has moved second reading. Any other discussion? All in favor?
I'll move third reading.
Councillor Hagy's gonna move third reading. Any discussion? Then all in favor? Okay. 6.7.1 is a motion to appoint the ORS director as regional ARB clerk.
I'll make that motion.
Councillor Foss makes that motion. Everybody okay with it? Understand it? Then all in favor? Okay, good. 6.8, the farm safety letter, the community garden. Did anybody reach out to Laura on this or to Megan Depew?
I talked to Laura this week and just confirmed to her that we wanted to move forward, but I also confirmed to her that we wanted somebody to be in charge so that we didn't have to wonder who was going to be the person that we could speak to if there was a problem or if there was some concerns that need to be rectified. And she assured me that that would be Megan Depew.
Okay. Did they break up the land? Did they rototill it?
I don't know if they did it yet. They were waiting for the first call to go out and stake any lines that they might need to avoid. And I
Okay.
don't know. I haven't been by there today. I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay, you understand what's going on? I guess we need a motion here to approve this farm
I'll
safety
move that
letter.
we go forward with this community garden through the farm safety with having somebody in the community in charge of it.
And that somebody is Megan Depew?
Megan Depew.
Okay. Any discussion from anybody?
Question, Mayor.
Sure.
When you're talking Megan Depew, are we talking about Megan Depew James, or is it somebody else that we're
No,
talking
this,
about?
this is, this is,
It's
Ma-
Megan Annika Depew.
yeah, she's married to,
Okay, thank
she's
you
married to
very
Mason.
I was confused.
Or
with
that, I
them.
should have clarified that.
My last name's come up a lot this meeting. Okay, yeah, that's who it is. Okay, and all in favor? Oh, Councillor Price, or Peters has a question? Oh, we can't hear you. You are muted, hang on.
Gotcha.
Okay,
Just wanna make sure that individual, Megan, is gonna be responsible for all the watering and turning off and starting up, so we don't have any water issues.
That's exactly what we discussed, Councillor Peters, is, you know, we don't want the neighborhood not knowing who's in charge or what's going on. She will be the one that is the go-to.
And I've already heard her name bandied around as the one who's the go-to. So the information is out there, I think, to a large degree.
okay. So I'll call for the vote then. All in favor? Any opposed then? What happened to Councillor Harker? I don't know what to do here now. So Councillor Harker never got a vote in either way, I'm not sure. She's
Maybe
off.
Just wait a moment, she may be trying to log back on.
She's off screen, okay. This is a little more difficult to do than you think, eh?
Yeah.
These buttons are close together, so it's easy to misclick, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, it's still carried, so.
Yeah, it's still carried, we just don't know which way she voted, right? And I think she would have voted
She
for
made
it.
a motion.
She made the motion, so I'd assume that she'd vote for it.
She actually has to vote for it if she made the motion.
Yeah.
So it's unanimous.
Okay, we'll just make a mention in the minutes that she left the meeting at 7:50.
Okay.
We don't know where she went.
Some other time.
Hold on, here she is. Long way.
I don't know if that's true, you have to vote for it when you make that motion.
You can make a negative motion.
Yeah,
You still have to vote for your motion though.
No.
no,
Really?
I don't think you have to.
Hmm.
You can make it,
Why would you make the motion for her?
Yeah.
sometimes you wanna get it off the table, cause it's there, so you wanna make the motion and then vote it down. But just,
Joan, can you hear us?
Councillor Harker?
Oh, you can.
Rats.
Oh.
So shall move on anyway. 6.9, the 08-2020 RFD Raymond Environmental Strategic Plan. Who wants to talk about this?
We put this out for public consultation on our website and on social media. We had no one respond officially, but we had positive comments just from the Facebook feed. There was nobody in a negative comment, but even though they're not official. I guess, again, the intent of this document is to position the town to be able to be more competitive in the ability to attract future capital grants by demonstrating that the projects that we do all tie into an overall plan designed to make Raymond a more responsible and sustainable user of our resources and in the environment. It's not necessarily a political statement, it's more so a just a well-measured, responsible approach that hopefully will attract additional capital grant dollars to the town from a competitive market.
Okay, that was a very good document.
Yeah, it was really good.
And all of these, again,
Makes sense.
if it says TBD, that's up to council, this council, future councils to decide as priorities or budget allows. Just because it's listed in here does not mean you will do it. It just means that these are options that council can consider. This is also a living document, which means you can adjust it as council see fit.
Okay. So we need a motion to accept this document.
I'll move.
Councillor Higgy makes that motion. Any other discussion from anybody? Then all in favor? Well, you're back, Councillor Harker.
I am, I got kicked off.
Okay, we'll move on to committee reports. You see, there's no other comments except for Councillor Capeters. We appreciate your comments on the committee reports.
Mayor?
Go ahead, Councillor
I forgot
Capeters.
to add, I forgot to put the title there, just so people know, it's, from my Chief Mountain Solid Waste Authority meeting, I didn't include that.
Okay,
Not sure, Curtis, if you could add that in there somewhere so people know.
Yeah, we can make that amendment.
Thank you.
this week I have a town hall meeting with some ministers from up in Edmonton. And also I have a meeting with our MLA, Grant Hunter, on Friday too, so we'll be able to talk to them more. Also, Barry Morishito of the AUMA is still working on this, trying to get this request for the police enhancing dropped. Just so you know, I mean,
Works tirelessly on it.
it's good. He is trying to do it. He's the one that got it started, and now he's trying to get it stopped for this year anyway. He is. So just so you know that, he sent us an email here about a week ago about it. So I'm not sure anything's gonna happen, but I'll bring that up with Grant Hunter on Friday too.
And I think council just, if we're looking for ways to try and mitigate, mill rate implications this year and in years going forward, I'm not usually one to advocate, a strong opposition to the province, but I think in this instance where there is literally no net benefit to the town for a substantial cost, which is the exact reason why we are having this challenge, I think it may be prudent to be a bit more vocal in our opposition as a recommendation, as a way to try and mitigate the mill rate impact to the residents going forward, because year one's a minor amount comparatively.
Yeah.
By year 3 or 4 it's substantial. And again, where are we gonna find that?
Well, that's where we have to work on this enhanced policing too, eh? We want credit on the enhanced policing, so.
Correct.
Anyway, we'll bring that up. Councillor Higgy?
I just got an update last night from the Ag Society. We haven't really had a meeting, but they just wanna, kinda give everyone an update that they have canceled everything up until their annual quilt show, which is in October. So there won't be any Aggie Days this year, there won't be, well, they are canceled the tractor pull before, but there won't be any summer events, done by the Ag Society this year. As of right now, they're hoping the turkey being on AGM in November will still be a go. But basically up till then, everything's been canceled.
Okay,
Which
interesting.
I believe is bookings of the Red Barn and their main building.
Okay, good to know. Any other discussion from anybody? If not, we need a motion to accept committee reports.
I'll move.
Councillor Hagee makes that motion, and all in favor? There is no correspondence, so we'll move to closed session. We need a motion to go into closed.
I'll move.
Councillor Hagee moves, we go into closed, all in favor? Okay, we are now in closed session. Thank you for coming. Was it any better than watching it on the computer?
You hear us?
Okay. Who's gonna make the motion? Oh, Councilor Hagee.
We are on.
Okay, we're out of closed. Councilor Hagee will is gonna make a motion.
Back on?
Yep, go back on.
Okay. Okay, Greg, you can add to this if you want to, but I'd like to make a motion that Greg Ranger continues to make the payments that have already been put in
No
place.
names, no names.
Oh, sorry. Already been put in place, and, direct and give Greg Rumson's, department the authority to, continue to work with,
Land matter.
with it,
The landowner.
with landowner.
Okay, just omit the name and everything else is
Yeah.
okay?
From the motion, yes.
Yes, okay. Everybody okay with that? Then all in favor? Okay, that was unanimous. Okay, is there anything else? Was that it?
That was all.
We need a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Councillor Price moves we adjourn. All in favor? Okay, good. Thank you, everybody.